I'm Jill Barnett Kaufman, and I'm talking about what to do when you're going through divorce and how difficult it is because when you're going through divorce, you really have to do a lot of things at one time. You have to function in your normal life, you have to understand your financial situation, you have to make decisions about your children and where you're living, and there's so many things that come at you at once that most people feel really overwhelmed and can't think clearly because there's so much anxiety and fear and just a lot of questions that have to be answered, and a lot of people don't know where to start. So I really wanted to talk about how to, from step one, what to do when you decide or find out that you're getting divorced. So, thinking about it, when you think about divorce, you think you know how you would respond or how you react, and it's not always the way you think it's going to be. It's extremely overwhelming. It's scary. You feel shame. You feel lonely. There's so many emotions. You feel grief because you're losing so much. So I think it's so important that people have help in how to move forward when they find out they're getting divorced or they decide they're getting divorced. So the first thing I would do is recognize that you're not alone. There are so many people going through this, and there are professionals out there to help you. So I am a divorce coach, a therapist, a parent educator, and a divorce mediator, and I work with people to help them when they're feeling this overwhelm. And I have worked with hundreds of people through this, so I know exactly what to tell you and how to guide you in a direction. So that's the first step. I would meet with a professional, whether it's a divorce coach, a lawyer, it could be your financial advisor. There's many different professionals that you could meet with to find out really where you go from here. You have to make decisions, so it depends on your situation. Are you going to stay in your marital home? Are you going to, what percentage child custody do you want? But the two main things you have to think about is, number one, your finances, and number two, what's going to happen with the children. So those two, if you think about it as two buckets that you have to really think clearly about, it's helpful. And when you get into each of those buckets, there's a lot of different questions and decisions you have to make, but recognizing that it's either going to be financial or it's going to have to do with your children. And those are the two main areas that you have to focus on. When you're thinking about finances, I highly recommend you just look through and understand what you have. Do you have statements from all of your accounts? Do you know the value of your home? Do you have any businesses? What are your assets? So that's the first thing that you have to do with with your financial situation. Know what you have. And depending upon where you are, it depends what's going to happen. Most places you have to split marital assets 50-50, but not every place. And then the other thing about finances is income. What income are you and your spouse making? If one person isn't making income and they're just taking care of children, is there alimony involved? And the difference between child support and alimony is child support is something mandated by each state. Every state has a different regulation when it comes to child support, and you just kind of plug in the numbers, percentage time that you're going to have the kids, what your incomes are, who's paying for medical, and then it spits out what each of you, pay or owe, or get. So child support's pretty easy, and child support covers your children's food, clothing, and housing. Whereas alimony is something that one of the spouses would pay to the other if they make significantly more or one of the spouses aren't working. When it comes to children, there's so much more involved, and you really want to focus on the need of the children throughout your whole negotiations when you go through divorce. And you want to think about, where are the children going to live? Where are you going to live? What percentage of custody is appropriate? Is 50-50 appropriate? Is 60-40 appropriate? You can be so creative when it comes to parenting time and who gets which parenting time. You can have one parent have more parenting time during the school year and one has more during the summer. So there's a lot of ways to be flexible and creative when you're talking about these things. But the best recommendation I can give people is talk with professionals. You will save so much money if you talk with professionals. Don't initially hire an attorney and then file for divorce, because you want to get as much information you can before you hire anybody on a long-term basis. And a lot of attorneys will meet with you for 1 hour or 2 hours to just answer your questions. They may ask for a retainer at some point, which means, a few $1,000s to work with them on a continuing basis, but you don't have to do that right away. So I recommend people don't do that right away. I recommend people talk to an attorney, talk to a divorce coach, talk to a therapist, talk to a financial professional, and then you can make your decision on how you want to do your divorce process. And I do recommend people look into mediation, because divorce mediation is significantly less expensive than most other ways of divorcing. So anyway, give you some background so that you could have a place to start. But if you have any questions, please coach Jill at gmail.com. And my website is divorcecoachjill.com.